Thank you, Dawn. And look, firstly, thanks everyone for joining. I'm conscious there is competing sessions, not quite standing room only. I think we've got 2 empty chairs. But no, thank you. I know you're going to get a lot thrown at you today, so this is like a 20-minute session. We are here all day as well, so if there's anything I'd cover that you want to come and have a chat about, please do. It's interesting when you sign up for these because you're given a reasonably free brief in terms of what you want to talk about, and of course, Mercer Marsh benefits, the Darwin software that we have. There's so much you can talk about, but what I also want to do is give you a few takeaways that hopefully, again, from everything you hear today, you can take back to your respective organisations and hopefully start to apply, or at least start to think about some of what I'll talk about. So it's the evolving role of technology in a truly valued employee experience. And I'm going to set my stall out early, like I think software and technology does have a key role to play within the employee experience, but I don't think it's everything. I still am a huge advocate for that combination of the human touch supported by technology and the pathways that you can create. So let's get going. I mean, if you think about the world we're living in, the kind of 5-6 year period we've gone through, the term polycrisis I hadn't heard before, but actually it was one of my colleagues said it. And everywhere you look, there's been kind of some doom and gloom. There's been some big pressures. There's been pandemics. There's been a lot of geopolitical instability and things. And the reason I bring it up is that I think at macro level, if you then start to think about the human level and the key people themes and the pressures and the world that we're living and working in nowadays, these are some of the key themes that we're seeing really in our conversations with our clients and our prospects. And there's a lot on there, right? You know, I mean, I think the to-do list is probably as long and as complicated for HR and for reward professionals as it's ever been. And often teams feel like they're also running as lean as perhaps they've ever run as well. The software has roles to play in all of this for me, but I think, you know, where we think about that wider employee value proposition, I'm going to actually attempt to define what I think makes up the employee value proposition as we go through. But we've already heard some of these in terms of the keynotes. You're certainly not allowed to stand up and speak today, I think, unless you at least reference AI. But what a fascinating session from Simon. You know, I'm sure a lot of you are like me, where you're still probably feeling your way a little bit with it. But I thought that was a really useful session that I've got some actions from. Again, I'm going to come back to the employee experience. I'm also going to come back to these moments that matter, because I think, you know, we're trying to do so much as reward and as HR professionals, paternalistically or in terms of some cost pressures we're facing. There's never kind of one answer and one silver bullet. But I did want to just kind of base some of what I talk about today in research as well. You saw some of our stats actually earlier, and this is a statistic. Look, asking HR professionals, you know, what are your prioritizations? And you can see this is a time-based thing, so the darker blue is the more immediate priority, so in terms of, you know, an immediate next 12-month focus. And look, I've been doing this kind of 17 years. I grew up at Thomson's Online Benefits. I've been in and around this space a long time. And actually, some of these aren't radically new and they're not radically different, but this is still what we're hearing from HR and benefits professionals, that supporting attraction, retention, and engagement remains that number one focus. And again, it's a fast evolving talent pool and war for talent and skill sets, as we heard about earlier. It's not necessarily external talent, it's reskilling internal talent. Employee well-being, you know, again, I've been doing this a long time. I think kind of well-being used to be a pillar of the Flex strategy and the Flex program. I actually think it's probably shifted. I think now Flex is part of your well-being plan and well-being strategy more likely. But then this last one is a bit broader, so, you know, inclusive, supportive benefits. So we know we're seeing a lot of alignment or attempted alignment to that wider ambition around diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, and the reward strategy as well. So these are the answers the HR professionals give, and then we ask a similar question in our survey to the C-suite. So in terms of what the CEOs, the CFOs out there, why they would think to invest or indeed back a request to invest in technology for HR or benefits. And it's pretty similar. There is a slight switch, so well-being comes out top. It just switches place. The percentages aren't particularly stark. So attraction, retention, and then again, that inclusive piece. And the reason I include these stats is I think that wherever we're asking for budget, whether that's a continued spend in technology or a new spend in technology, if we can align what our HR, our reward objectives are to what the C-suite are looking to invest in, then I think that's often a pretty good place to start. So, defining the employee experience. For me, there's different pillars. I think they've evolved a lot in the time I've been doing this. Environment, so I think where we think about the impact of hybrid working, what are the different touch points now for different employees? And look, I recognize not everything changed for every organization. A lot of our clients always had remote or home-based workers. There's probably been a bit of a shift in terms of some of those percentages and proportions. But I think these touch points, again, I come back to this combination of a digital touch point with you as an employer, but also the human contact as well. And look, it might be less human contact as a result of more digital contact, but I still think there is a key role for that human interaction. And that could be colleague to colleague, that could be HR to colleague. We think about culture, we think about leadership, we think about well-being, all of these different things that start to craft and shape the environment, and of course then process and technology, which should be an enabler as opposed to a hindrance. Employee expectations, and this came up, and this is probably the most radical shift I've certainly seen in my time. So I'm a boy from Scarborough. I came down to London with kind of no job and all that. I was just really grateful someone gave me a job at graduate level, and I thought, you know, let me prove you haven't made a mistake by bringing me in. So different now, right? I'm involved in our academies. I've done a lot of the recruitment on the kind of entry-level roles and the early career side of things. But it's like you're pitching to them, you know, this is what we're going to give you. And it's been such a radical shift, I think. And then the concept of loyalty, you know, coming in. And I think that expectation has shifted. And I think reward and benefits, and indeed the technology needs to evolve with them as well. Finally, moments that matter. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on these, just trying to keep to time. There are a lot of moments that happen in life, both in the workplace, out of the workplace. Some of them aren't new, you know, life events, traditional ones around marriage, divorce, the birth of a child, etc. But again, I do think we have seen an evolution of what those moments that matter are. I'm obsessed with these to a point because I think we talk a lot about engagement, we talk about getting things right. If you can support someone in one of these moments that matter, I am convinced that will give an injection of engagement, of loyalty. But on the flip side, if you get something wrong as the support, as the employer, in these moments that matter, it can be pretty catastrophic. And look, there are other ways you can define. I'm not saying that's an exhaustive list, but that's just one way to start thinking about and framing, I think, the employee experience. So moments that matter, life events as they used to be called, and look, they're not all brand new. In terms of the statistics, we've done a lot of research and pulled in World Health Organization data, World Bank data, et cetera, and so these are averages. Of course, different demographics may experience different amounts or proportions of life events and moments that matter. That 64% who are stressed about finances, and that's probably really been amplified over the last couple of years with the cost of living pressures. We know we can't just give everyone pay rises all the time to keep pace with inflation, so what else can we do? Cancer diagnosis, you know, very, very serious critical moments that matter, or mental health issues, much more prominent, and things like those taboos that we've seen lifted. And if I put this, and this is an average head count, so if you play these out again, you can see some of the sources at the bottom there. But if you've got 1,000 people, roughly speaking, on average, these are the amounts of moments that matter that you're going to have. And actually, if you add those up, that's 900 out of an audience of 1,000. So of course, we know not every 9 in 10. Some people may have multiple events, multiple moments that matter. So I'm going to keep moving, and I'm going to get onto technology because that's what you're keen to hear about. But I do want to frame things again with those moments that matter. For me, technology is about creating a digital front door. It's about creating simplicity, and it's about creating pathways. So what I mean by digital front door, whether that's on mobile phone, whether that's desktop, iPad, whatever, however you want to access it, there should be no barriers. You should be able to access it as you would expect to in your consumer or your personal life. Technology should create simplicity. So I don't think technology that just causes mass confusion and has endless clicks and places to go. People give up. You know, you've probably got them for a couple of clicks sometimes. And pathways, so where you think about someone in one of those moments that matter, or maybe just a casual visit to the site. You know, they might not have anything critical on fire in their life. But whatever they're doing there, they should have a clear pathway to achieve what they want to with that visit to the site. The good news is, and look, I know we did a breakfast session. It was fascinating because we had a mixture of people who don't have benefit software today, and I can see some people in the room versus sort of second and third time buyers of this kind of technology. The good news, whether you're already investing or whether you're looking to invest, is look, this stuff, this works, and it kind of always has, I believe, but it continues to work as well. You can see the correlation, so the bigger blue and pink is really where there's a positive answer based on the fact that, yeah, I have got employee benefits software, and as a result, I'm giving a much more positive answer versus those employees who are asked who don't have access to benefits software. So I've worked in the benefits technology space a long time. It was fascinating, again, the breakfast discussion we had, because we asked, what are the concerns? What are the frustrations that you have with your current platforms? And the words like clunky came up, and someone gave a good example of Workday, which is, by far the best, biggest global HCM solution, but it's far from perfect, potentially in terms of user experience and things. So we think and talk a lot about this, the style and the substance of employee benefits software. And this is my final stat, I promise. But looking at the role of software for you, the organization, for you as HR reward professionals, this is the time-based thing again, so the darker blue is the more immediate reasons and issues and challenges, but adding rigor, optimizing cost, governance, secondly, automating administration processes. So this is still an immediate challenge, an immediate objective for a lot of people out there, which partly surprises me, and I'm very aware I've been working with a platform that automates this stuff for a long time, but it is still a big burden. And it could be that people have software, maybe giving an employee experience, but they've still not cracked that automation, that administration process as well. We talked and heard earlier about increased visibility, actionable MI, interrogating MI. I was just talking to someone on the stand there. Management information telling you who's doing what today is useful, of course it is, but also what if, let's actually be able to really start to weave into that, ask questions, and the AI example again I thought was fascinating this morning. And look, continued investment into these platforms. It still amazes me, and again I'm so aware I've been talking about this for a while, how many big companies that we've all heard of are coming to market for the very first time to buy an employee benefits platform. You think, I assumed you'd had one 10 years, but no, they are just later in their journey. So, style and substance. It's fascinating, again, when we have second, third-time buyers coming to us and they say, look, of course we want to see what the employee sees, and that's important, and we want a great user experience. The platforms are doing similar things, generally speaking. They've got total reward statements, they've got a benefits management tool, whether that's to allocate core benefits, whether that's to allow choice and flexibility, reimbursement, most of you will have heard of, I'm sure. It's still not that well adopted. I think it's a great model for some, but I think it's potentially a bit clunky in terms of the tax and the communication, and it's a policy essentially. But don't sit there thinking everyone's doing it, because truthfully they're not. The wider employee value proposition, we want these platforms to be much more than just a once-a-year visit to enroll in your benefits, or a monthly opportunity, whatever it might be. And then integrating things like reward and recognition, as we heard about earlier as well. So this generally is what the employee sees when they arrive, land on the platform. Having done it as long as I have, this is all the stuff that's going on under the bonnet, or under the waterline, to use this analogy. And it's complicated. Like, these platforms do a lot of really complicated things. And inbound and outbound data, it should be absolute hygiene factor for us that that's fully automated. There's one on there, I can't remember what it is, stepping rules. So these provider stepping rules, right? This idea that the first time you select a benefit, you can flex it as much as you want. But after that first selection opportunity, the insurer will restrict a movement of one level up, right? All of these things need to go right, because if they don't, you guys in the room, generally speaking, aren't happy because there's been a data breach, because your inbound data or outbound data has not worked properly. People are on the wrong levels of cover. You're paying premiums for joiners who left a year ago, but because the report's not actually created automatically, it's a manual report that may be outsourced. In theory, you've outsourced that manual task. But again, these are the headaches, or the potential headaches. And when I think about the employee user experience, and I think about the role of software in it, telling someone, sorry, your dependent isn't on cover when they need to make a claim, that's a really bad phone call, right? Someone who's had an incorrect deduction taken from payroll, that's not as bad as the dependent not being on cover, but it's just another conversation you don't really want to have. So for us, and again, when we talk to second and third time buyers, they do want to see that. But they really want us to take us under the bonnet. They want us to prove it. Everyone says it's automated. Everyone says, of course, it's no manual intervention. Get people to prove it, right? And that's sort of something I would leave with you for today. Is Dawn here? I don't know how I'm doing for time. I think I'm okay. 5 minutes, good. I might even have time for some questions. So what to start to think about today, and the role of software I will come on to. But I think in terms of the employee value proposition, look, it's changed, it's evolved, it's different for different organizations. Often an employee value proposition is kind of bolted together, and you inherit things, and over the years something new comes along, and like mental health, yeah, okay, great, so we're going to tackle that here. But it's essentially being tackled in isolation. It can become quite incoherent sometimes. But do think holistically. You will have you are great places to work beyond the salary, beyond benefits, beyond reward. Let's think about those other softer reasons, culture, purpose, all of these things which we know are more and more important. And let's try and communicate that. Let's try and capture that with this platform. Hidden benefits, one of the most common things I hear, we've just launched, someone's in the room, to 40,000 plus people, a very large bank of over 10,000 people 2 weeks later. It's been a busy quarter. Oh, thanks for all these new benefits. That's great. You've added this EAP. You never had them. You've always had it. You just didn't. You didn't know. People, I think, sometimes think you launch these platforms and you've got to put loads of new stuff there. I promise you, if you've not had a platform before and you put everything in one place and do total reward and things, you will get thanked for adding new benefits. So think about those hidden benefits. And also think about the existing providers you work with. And I think COVID really, really accelerated this. But they've really stepped up, some of them, in terms of their own digital platforms, digital offerings. And it's like an insurance product, right? And you don't necessarily associate it with the prevention side versus the cure side, So do challenge your brokers or your providers directly to say, look, are we using everything? Do we even know what we get? So I would implore you to do that too. I come back to these moments that matter, and this, for me, we think about this evolving workforce, we think about how they evolve in terms of who they are, the generations they sit in, what they care about, what they don't care about, perhaps that we did or I did when I came into the workplace. We have to be inclusive, and we have to stop thinking in this 2.4 children linear assumptions of how people's lives are. A lot of lives are still like that, right? But if you want to be truly inclusive, you really, really need to start challenging your thinking and data's a good place to start sometimes, because then you're not playing so much in the dark. Think about dependence. I'm now a father of 2. When I was 17 years ago, I was not a father of 2. The first thing I'm thinking about is my wife and my children. It becomes a very emotive thing for me, that. So where we are thinking about moments that matter, yes, focus on your people, your direct employees, but also think about their dependents there. And it could be elder care, it could be children, it could be anything in between. But we've all seen it where pressures come on our colleagues and our employees with family stuff and all of that. If you can support them in that, I think you will get really, really great engagement on the back of it. And be clear on the role of technology. So these platforms, and again, I think it's why it's a mature market, but it's a continually evolving market. It is the gateway in many cases to your employee value proposition. There will be other entry points potentially too. Keep it quite simple. I love the evolution of software in terms of, well, now it can do this, and now it can do this, and now it can do this. But I think there's a tipping point where it loses its original purpose if we're not careful, and people actually start to forget what it's there for and when it's there for. But pathways, so put yourself in the position of these colleagues going through these moments that matter, experiencing them, and think about, well, what journey would I take, and what's the role of software to get me where I need to go, whether that's support, a claim, just some information potentially. Think the tip of the iceberg. I hope if you remember nothing else, you will remember that slide, but streamlined automated administration. It's slightly boring compared to the glamorous, employee-facing platforms and apps and all that good stuff. We have a great UI, we're very proud of it. Our clients tell us it's great. But I rarely get asked about it, again, when I'm meeting new prospects or people who've had platforms. They never ask about that first. They always ask about what's going on under that waterline. Is it streamed? Is it truly automated? Well, if it's truly automated, why can't I run my admin process myself? Or if it's truly automated, why does it take a week to get a report? Surely it's a click of a button, right? And then it's just there. So these are the different questions, again, that we get asked, depending on where people are. But look, I hope this has been useful. I had 20 minutes. For me, again, it is that mix. It's the benefits that truly benefit. People will tell you software is a silver bullet, and I think it can be partly a silver bullet, but I don't think the human touch is going anywhere soon. So I think for me, it's that right marriage of technology and humans to truly, remember why we do this, right? This is about people and about helping people. And that's me. So thank you very much.